Minister Budrys, welcome to our program.
Thank you for having me here.
I would like to discuss recent developments on the Munich Security Conference, and also I should start with Trump's statements on Ukraine. US President Trump had a phone call with Russian dictator Vladimir Putin. He is confident that the deal could be made in the nearest future. What is your take on that, and how do you see the possibility for a ceasefire this year in Ukraine for any kind of such agreement?
Of course, there is a place for the agreement. It depends how it is achieved. And talking about dictator Putin and knowing the previous wars that he started and how they ended, he's not looking, we have the answer, he's not looking for the peace here, or maybe some ceasefire to regenerate forces, but he's not looking for the peace. So the only way how to achieve the peace that would be durable, that would be sustainable, is through the strength and through the force. So if we are not forcing Putin to the decisions, I wouldn't take them as the ones that would last, because he already claimed what he wants and he's still trying to achieve, and that's to subjugate Ukraine and to review the overall security system and structure in Europe. And in our interest, it is same as in Ukraine's interest and in NATO, in whole NATO's interest, is to prevent that happening. Aggressor cannot get anything for what they started the aggression. And that's the crime of the aggression that cannot be rewarded. That's the basic principle. Can we achieve the result and a deal? Of course we can. But we need huge sticks in our hands before that.
How we can ensure Russia will not attack Ukraine again and will not violate such a deal by deploying European peacekeeping forces, providing Ukraine with security guarantees? How do you see this plan to ensure Russia will not invade Ukraine again in the future?
So first of all, we cannot allow ourselves to accept the new reality. We cannot avoid the aggressor. So there has to be no appeasement and nothing put in front of the table, first of all. Just for them also, for the Russian decision makers to remember the situation in the future when they, or if they would love to repeat it. So this is number one. The second thing, it's the only thing that works against Russia, that's deterrence. And it has to be credible, and it has to be visible, and it has to assure everyone that it works. And we have the conventional deterrence, and of course, all the other forms of deterrence, included nuclear deterrence, that it is needed against Russia. So it has to be the combination of all these elements for the peace to last. Because we don't believe that Russia will keep its promises or any signature means anything, because it doesn't. And we saw already how it was with Minsk I or Minsk II agreements what concerns Ukraine's security then, and someone also had the expectation that it will last. It didn't, and we knew it from the very beginning that it's only for getting more time to generate forces and return to Ukraine. Same here. It has to be there in Ukraine, the credible force, the visible force that can deter Russian forces. The only way it works. And that's why we are so much in support of Ukraine's membership in NATO. Because that's the most clear and straightforward way into the guarantees and to the security. If there are some other alternatives and options, maybe, but they will take time and they will cost a lot and they would require a lot of efforts from everyone, US included.
NBC News just reported that Ukraine could sign a deal with the United States on its natural resources in exchange of deploying American troops on the ground in Ukraine. Would you also be ready to commit any kind of troops if there is such peacekeeping forces of European nations?
We have to discuss all the options, and for Lithuania, we always repeated that we are ready to discuss any ideas. We never said that, oh no, this one, we won't do it. Oh no, that's not an option for us. It never happened. And for Lithuania, yes, we will discuss, be it deployment of troops, be it peacekeeping, or be it deterrence force. There are different models under what mandate and everything, but that's the details, and we are ready to discuss it. And when there will be the right time for it, and I'm sure that we will have this discussion. Of course, we have to be realistic about the current status of European forces and what we can achieve now, what we can achieve achieve in 5 years, or if we are talking about planning for 10 years. Because Europe now is in a bit different situation than it was yesterday. We are ready to invest more, to build more our own capabilities, and of course to contribute more in the future, but not tomorrow.
Also, recently, from your perspective, would it be possible to conduct this peacekeeping mission in Ukraine without American involvement? Could it be credible without American troops, American intelligence, American also advisors, American money?
It depends on the mission, what we are doing there, because there are historically and even now in practice we have different peacekeeping missions around the world, and on the very tasks depends what the capabilities and instruments you need, whether it is the monitoring mission, it's a peacekeeping mission, or what's the purpose of deployment. But what you already listed, it's obvious that in Europe we lack some critical capabilities. And when we talk about the enablers, when we talk about the conventional forces, of course, like air defense capabilities, or be it, yes, ISTAR platforms for intelligence reconnaissance and other missions, of course, we are dependent on it. And be it the defense or be it deployment somewhere, as we've seen in the other missions previously, also as NATO missions. Yes, we are interconnected. And for Europe, that was the call to do more, to call to action. It was well received. We're doing more, but it will take time once again. So the short answer is we will have to cooperate on this.
From your perspective, is Europe ready, and is Europe getting its seat on the table during these negotiations between Ukraine, Russia and the United States? Do you feel that there is a decision that Europe will participate?
Europe must be at the table. It's absolutely inevitable because of the many reasons. Because first of all, it's about us here, and all the consequences of the peace agreement will be not only for Ukraine or Europe. That actually would be global, because the conflict is already global, with Iran supplying drones and missiles, with China supplying dual-use products for Russia's military-industrial complex, North Korea supplying its soldiers that are in a battlefield. That's global. If this is not the description of global, what it is then the global conflict. So it's already global, and the consequences will be also global. For Europe, that would mean that we will live, at least for decades, in the new security structure, with Ukraine vulnerable and under the threat each day, or Europe that will be, or Ukraine that will be secure and the prosperous country, and within the European Union as another member that would create security even to the further distances from its borders. So of course it's about our future. Answering these questions, how you can answer those without Europe? And Europe is now the largest supporter of Ukraine. What concerns supplies for its security and defense needs, and what concerns in total amounts. So knowing all this, of course, it's not only the right to have the seat at the table, but it's a necessity, because in the future the biggest commitment, and it will continue to be from Europe, and also from our part of Europe, of Nordic Baltic countries. When you count all the support that we supplied, we are number 2 after US. So from our perspective, it's directly the consequences would be directly to us. So from our side, we also need this necessity to be represented there.
Also, I would like to cover with you sanctions against Russia. Trump is really confident that sanctions, tariffs, and other economic measures could really force Putin to negotiating table. Do you also feel like that? And what are your next steps in context of sanctions?
That's one of the leverage, and I like this, the very approach, and that's what we should talk about. What leverages are in the hands of the United States or in the hands of Europe, and where we can cooperate, because we have the common interest here to be strong in a position and strengthen Ukraine. So that's the good topic. And what concerns sanctions, now we are working on the 16th package from EU's side, and there are still places where should move further on. That's the LNG. We know what are the main sources of their income, so we have to target those, and those are energy resources. So if we cooperate transatlantically, US on one side, we on the other side, on sanctions, we could achieve better results. And we can use it as the leverage. It's not the only one. there is another one. That's the frozen assets that are also both on one side of Atlantic and on the other side of Atlantic. We should take them also for the first purposes of Ukraine, to support Ukraine now and for reconstruction, and second, as the leverage against the Russians. We have those.
And would you support using Russia's frozen assets, for example, to buy weapons from the United States and deliver them to Ukraine?
First of all, we should take it into our disposition, and then we will decide what's the most effective way to use it and what are the goals that we are trying to achieve. Yes, but first step, it has to be there. We have the legal answers, it is doable. We have the economic and financial assessments, it's doable. What we need political will. And with US in, there is the bigger hope for the political will to be there at the table.
And also about the support for Ukraine from the United States, Reuters recently reported that US administration will push European allies to buy weapons from the US for Ukraine. Would you support such initiative?
We can consider this. We are already buying from US, and it's around 1/5 of everything that we spend in our defense investment. We buy from US as Lithuania, as the country. To buy for the others, I do not see as something that we cannot do. On the other hand, we have all arguments to do this because there are certain weapon system or ammunition that only US produces that is of the big need of Ukraine. So why not? I'm talking about air defense, for example, or some longer range missiles that are more in US, or the systems that you use in Ukraine. So that's obvious.
If there is a ceasefire deal between Ukraine, Russia, the US, Europe, how should Europe deal with Russia? Because there are some concerns that some European leaders could get back to business as usual with Russia. How should Europe deal with Putin, Russia, and all these representatives of the Russian Federation?
Ceasefire is not the final stage. Ceasefire that will last for a short period of time is a dangerous thing. I understand all the expectations of people just for the war just to stop, and I support that. I feel that. But we need to talk about the peace agreement, peace that would last longer. So for Europe, for me, that would be no difference from what we are doing now. Support Ukraine and put pressure on Russia and continue to do that till we reach the point where it's the peace agreement. In the peace agreement, there has to be clear on the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Ukraine and accountability on each and every who was involved in this aggression. Then we can talk about the things to be reviewed and the decisions that we made to be reviewed. Till that, I have no reason to do this.
Can you imagine a scenario in which European leaders meeting Vladimir Putin and dealing with him in case of even ceasefire or a long-standing peace deal? Can you imagine such a scenario?
Yeah, I can. Maybe someone would love to visit him in prison after the trial. Maybe. I don't know. I won't.
But do you expect some large European allies to act like that? I mean, main allies in the EU.
Yeah, maybe someone will meet him. I don't know what will be all the design of the negotiations. But we cannot imagine that aggressor who has the bloody hands that would be invited at some table to discuss something in common, some common interest, our future. It cannot be there. I cannot imagine someone saying that he or she can trust what we hear from Putin. I cannot.
Thank you, Minister Budrys, for your time and for your support for Ukraine, and glory to Ukraine.